And I think one of the things that we've excelled at is every member of our team practices what they preach. So members being able to see that their doctor or their NP or their physical therapist or their strength and conditioning coach is like actually putting in the work alongside them, I do think is important. And I think that's something, especially in medicine, like we've completely missed the boat. Like most physicians do not look healthy.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Dr. Ryan Greene, co-founder of Monarch Athletic Club. In this episode, we discuss Monarch's model for combining medical care, physical therapy, personal training, and recovery services under one roof. Ryan explains how his experience as a physician inspired him to take a preventative approach to well-being. Plus, we talk about scaling premium wellness experiences, reimagining insurance incentives, and making high-performance health more accessible. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is presented by EGYM. EGYM's smart fitness ecosystem is transforming healthcare through exercise. Combining strength equipment with AI-powered software and corporate wellness platform WellPass, it's leading the shift to proactive preventative health. Learn more about EGYM's intelligent workout solutions at egym.com. Hi, Ryan. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. It's been something on my vision board, so to speak, for a long time. So I'm great that it actually came to be.
Yeah, let's check it off and get right into it. Tell the folks what you're working on at Monarch and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll start with myself. High level, a physician, DO by training, came from a background of exercise physiology, immunology, and human nutrition. So I did undergrad, master's in that. Really wanted to be a orthopedic surgeon for professional sports teams. So that's the path I followed. Went to medical school in Denver, worked with the Broncos, the Rockies. My mentor out there was one of the team physicians for them. Fell in love with working with high performing individuals. Go to residency out at Dartmouth out east. And, you get a real rude look at what the healthcare system actually is and how it functions. And truth be told, like in my heart of hearts, the alignment of like what I'm telling people to do versus what I'm actually doing myself based on the hours and whatnot. I was like, none of this is in alignment. And so ultimately I decided when I was done with training to pivot, but I didn't know where to go. So I did a fellowship at Mayo Clinic in sports medicine and clinical research. Thought, academics was where I could make an impact. And I learned very quickly writing grants 6 months out of the year and then executing experiments is for some people, and it just wasn't for me. I needed to be with others. And around that time, that was about 10 years ago, that was kind of the emergence of people talking about LeBron spends $1 million a year on his recovery. And it started like the wheels turning, which was like, all right, like, you and my bodies are exactly the same as his in terms of like functional components. Like, so why can't we have access to the same experience that all these athletes have? And then you hear stories of like college athletes that are like, best shape of my life. And then I got out of the system and like everything falls apart. Military, best shape of my life. And then I get out and like I have no structure. So the genesis of what Monarch is truly came to me when I just had I don't know if you've ever been to Mayo Clinic. It's in Rochester, one of them, Rochester, Minnesota. It's an amazing facility. There's nothing around it. So I had nothing to do one weekend, went to the Mall of America. And that's where it clicked because I just saw like, as long as people can park their car once and have everything else that they need, that is what people strive for. They want simplicity. They want to be efficient. And then you think Walmart, Amazon, like Costco, like it's built off that model, right? And I was just like, okay, we should do that with health. There should be a place that someone can go and they have their medical team, physical therapy if they need rehab, strength and conditioning, because that's incredibly important. And then nutrition. And if we can have all those things and that sense of community, I really do think we can make a big impact for a long period of time. And, I was introduced to my now business partners who have been successful in hospitality and restaurants. So they understand like the customer service aspect. So we kind of blended medicine and that, community aspect, and that became Monarch. So we opened our first club January of 2020. 2 months later, pandemic hit. Not great for new businesses, but we were we've approached our model as we are a medical facility. So it's medically directed. And then we have all these amenities underneath, which again, like any health and fitness concept during the pandemic, should have been considered essential. But we actually had the legal means to continue to operate because we created ourselves as a medical concept that has these other amenities. I had no idea a pandemic was going to hit, but like it was the absolute best thing that could have happened to our business because we're pandemic proof. So we continued to grow through the pandemic. And then in April of 23, we opened our second club in Brentwood, so about 6 miles away. And what we learned is, even though 6 miles as the crow flies is not far, in LA, it might as well be a different country. So like the space, how we approach the members there is fundamentally the same. We focus on lifestyle, nutrition, strength, movement competency, and community, metabolic health. Everyone's getting their blood work done once a quarter. But we also realize that different communities need to have sometimes a different approach. And I think that's something that we have done well. And as we open up, we have 5 more locations opening over the next 3 years, some in Los Angeles and then beyond South Florida and Arizona. What we've proven is that the model, which was designed so that, you in Pennsylvania could join Monarch Pittsburgh or Monarch Philly, and then you can drop into any club anywhere and the team on site pulls up your program. So we've created this decentralized system so that you now have a broad network of health that will allow you to be consistent no matter where you go. So each club has its own feel. You got the people that you see all the time in the team, but we wanted people to understand that, like, in terms of longevity and health, health and longevity follows the same principles of power law and compounding in business. You have to do simple things consistently for a long period of time, or you're not going to get to where you want to go. And unfortunately, and I'm in LA right now, like the last few weeks have been atrocious, like terrible. The first thing people abandon is, how am I taking care of myself? How am I taking care of my physical body, my mental body? They got to think about work. They got to think about family. And that is pervasive, right? Like when people travel, they're not thinking about, is there a gym close to my hotel? Where am I going to drop in? Like if I'm doing rehab for jumper's knee, like, am I going to try to like make sure I'm, doing my physical therapy exercises? So our goal with this Monarch movement and the entire club system is we can open these clubs in any community in the country and probably the world. Like the foundations of what we're doing are no different if you're in Pittsburgh or Portugal. Like it's the exact same. Your brother posted something on LinkedIn about like exercise is the wonder drug. And like we don't even do that consistently. So our hope is that we'll be able to open these clubs that provide community, but also provide a structure that all you have to do is show up. Just walk in the doors. We'll take care of the rest. We'll make sure you're monitoring your diabetes risk, heart disease risk, hormone health. We'll make sure you're getting stronger. We'll make sure your body composition is moving in a direction that's appropriate. Because all things considered, Blue Zones have been doing what we're doing for a long time. They just haven't capitalized on it, which is totally fine. But you could call Monarch Athletic Club Blue Zone Health or Blue Zone Fit, whatever you want to call it, because we're not doing anything different. I just think, from what I've seen coming from the medical world and as a health enthusiast myself, like we're not doing the simple things well. I have 500 people here who do, we've done thousands of visits in the last 5 years. Unequivocally, people still don't sleep well. They don't eat well. They don't exercise enough. They don't drink enough water, and they're isolated. They have no sense of community, right? So I'm all in, and I'm sure we'll get into it, at some point, like technical development and technologic evolution, I think is absolutely necessary. We'll gain new tools and we'll be able to use them, but we still haven't mastered the foundational aspects of what will allow our body to function well, which is, sleep, eat, move, connect with other people, and make sure you're paying attention to what your body's telling you, which is where, blood work is helpful. So, I think what we're doing is relatively simple. Yes, it feels like a higher end experience. No one doesn't like nice things. No one doesn't like being in nice places. So we have a hospitality component to that. But at the end of the day, man, we're like, it is very simple what we're doing. It's not hard. And we still haven't mastered that. So before I put people on stem cell programs and like crazy peptide combinations, I'm like, just prove to me you can stop drinking 2 martinis a night, and like, let's see how you feel there. You know what I'm saying?
You mentioned a couple things as you're explaining this, like the kind of athlete protocol certainly resonates, or maybe military. And there might be some people who are like right now, whether it's things have kind of gone from this, oh, it's like a gym or fitness studio, and maybe there's like wellness spa type setting, to now a gym wants to be a medical facility. There's kind of all encompassing things, kind of emerging across the landscape. When you say like we have this all under one roof, how does that differentiate from, a health club at one end to a full blown, you're going to the doctor on the other end, in terms of like what people experience when they sign up and then walk through the doors, then evolve over that like protocol to really give people like this, concept of like, oh, it is not a wellness club. It's not a health club. It's not,
Totally.
other things that they at this point may kind of think in their head, hey, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm a student of history, as are you. Just to give context, and I'll go deeper there. Like the word med spa, which everyone understands what a med spa, that was made up. Like someone just like created that term. We have struggled for years with like, is an athletic club like the most appropriate name for what we do? Because if you call it wellness club, like I think wellness has like a certain connotation now, and if you call it a longevity club, like do people really understand like what that means? So I do think we'll probably define this category as we go, and maybe 10 years from now, like there will be a term for what we're doing similar to like med spa that got created. Right now, like, for us, we basically decided, 6 years ago that, a year before we opened, if someone described Joe as athletic, I don't think you would be offended. And so we just kind of said like, hey, like who doesn't want to be athletic, especially as they get older? And that's like where we kept it. Long story short, the member journey. So every member at every club, when you onboard, when you join, you get a medical assessment, which is, history, physical, supplements, meds, lifestyle assessment. How do you sleep? What's your diet look like? How much water are you drinking? We do metabolic blood work. So like we've been doing the same panel for the most part that like Function Health and all these other groups have been doing for a long time. Body composition. So whether that's in body, or we use STIQ at our Brentwood facility, so muscle mass, body fat. They go through a physical therapy assessment. So how do you move? A lot of people may have some limitations that they don't even know about. It's more than FMS. They're working with a doctor of physical therapy, injury history, specific concerns there. We do a lot of force plate testing so we can get objective metrics associated with like actual strength, bilaterally. So we've been using VALD for a long time, Tyndek. And then they do a 2-day strength assessment. And day one is all about how do you move? How do you push, pull, squat, hinge? Like, we get a lot of people, I've been a trainer for 10 years and they still don't know how to squat appropriately. So we take them through that aspect. And then day two is performance, push-ups, pull-ups, VO2 max, counter movement jump, like all these objective metrics that can show someone like you're actually making improvement over time. Because we do get a lot of people who come in and like their goals are very aesthetic, and that requires a lot of lifestyle change, which they may or may not be ready for, but we can show them, hey, you could do 0 push-ups when you started. Now you can do 5. That's going to help you, because inevitably if you fall when you get older and you can't get yourself up off the ground, that's going to be a problem. If you can't pull yourself up, or you can't put things up, like the lifestyle activities of daily living. And then from the blood work, like I said, everything that Function Health is doing. But the nice thing about our model is you're actually meeting with a medical professional and going through it. And you have unlimited access to the medical team. You can meet with, a doctor or a nurse practitioner every single day if you wanted to talk about whatever you want, no extra cost. Most people come in, we do all these assessments on a quarterly basis so that we can just make sure you're trending towards the goals that you've set for yourself. But you have no restriction. And what we hope to achieve is that, especially from the medical side and the nutrition side and physical therapy, is to kind of like destigmatize, so to speak, the fact that like, I should be your advocate. I have knowledge, you want it, let me help you with that. Same thing with physical therapy. Like instead of waiting until things get really bad, we have real-time communication between a strength team and a physical therapist. I can say, hey, Joe, felt something is low back. Tomorrow, we're going to change out his training session for a PT session. Like, they may evaluate and say, all right, we're going to modify his program a little bit. We'll put it in there. And then he's back with the strength team. So you're not like losing time and progress, which is what most people do. Again, like the language that we're speaking is consistent. So even though, we may have members going from West Hollywood to Brentwood, but our coaches and our physical therapists, like they all speak the same language. So they can see what other people are doing and know exactly what they're thinking. And I know for a fact that will scale as we grow, which I think adds value to what we're doing, because now, this membership, which isn't, it's not inexpensive, but when you think that your health is the most valuable asset that you have, like what is it worth to you to invest in something that will be beneficial because it's holistic and comprehensive, but it also feels like a place that you enjoy to go because, the majority of the sessions performed are training. We do 600 personal training sessions a week. We're not seeing 600 medical patients a week. Like, it's a little bit more spaced out, but it's nice that if you had a question and after a training session, you can just pop your head into the medical office and, shoot the shit, so to speak. And you're not worried about, does my insurance cover this? What's the bill that I'm going to get for this conversation? It's just like, one of the things that stuck to me when I was at Mayo Clinic is like the Mayo Foundation, like the entire clinic started because those two brothers were horse and buggy physicians in their hometown, and they were part of the community. And I think one of the things that we've excelled at is every member of our team practices what they preach. So members being able to see that their doctor or their NP or their physical therapist or their strength and conditioning coach is like actually putting in the work alongside them, I do think is important. And I think that's something, especially in medicine, like we've completely missed the boat. Like, most physicians do not look healthy. And I think there's a natural energy, non-resonance. So I do think a lot of the success that we've had has purely become like, we get to have these kinds of conversations with our members whenever we want. And when you can de-armor someone in terms of talking about things that are impacting their health, you actually do make progress.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer when you're talking about just even someone, okay, so I'm healthy and obviously I try to check all the boxes. I work out regularly and I have all these different ways that I'm trying to achieve goals for performance or for sleep or for nutrition and building a meal plan. But I'm doing that across 10 different services and 5 different providers, and I'm driving all over town. And if I do happen to get hurt, well, like you said, I'm set back. I have to go find a physical therapist. I have to get in there. I have to get assessed. I have to start that thing. All the while, everything else is totally derailed. So the idea of saying, yeah, we can just do that end to end for you right here, right? That is the value proposition. And I think most people would be like, yeah, sign me up. When does that go from, or how does that go from, kind of doing the things you mentioned that are the foundational aspects, right? We want to making sure that we're showing up for the workouts, that we're eating well, we're drinking water, we're sleeping, to a level of, either optimization or like prevention and care. Okay, you're pre-diabetic, or we identified something, or, hey, we want to take you to this next level in terms of getting your testosterone in the kind of right levels. Because I think some of those things, right, you might be thinking, and not to make the comparison, but like thinking like, oh, I can see a nutritionist and maybe get some of these things done, or maybe, yeah, I've been going to physical therapy, and so I'm kind of like checking that box. But this is also another level of like, hey, we can take and do what, let's say, a digital longevity clinic or specialized kind of care provider, and like also do those things like right on site.
And short answer is we do. And I think that's something that people initially, they may not understand when they join, because they just think, hey, like, this is a great deal. I get a personal trainer every day if I want. Like, those numbers pencil out. We have unlimited scope, right? So we have medical practitioners that can do anything, prescribe anything. We're not replacing someone's primary care. That is not our goal. We are absolutely in like the longevity and performance category. So every member joins, they get their blood work done if they want it, and they can have that done on a quarterly basis. So we can continue to check in. And one of the things that with that frequent amount of touch points is like, you'd be amazed. You probably wouldn't, but I think most people would be amazed how many supplements people are on that they have no idea when, why, or what they started them for, other than they were told that they should. And they have no idea if they're working. So like, that's insane. Like in any aspect of business, which is so funny because like your body is your business. You have to treat it like your business. And if you're not looking at your P&L or your balance sheet and you're just like spending money recklessly without knowing if it's like ROI, but when it comes to our health, you're just like, oh, so and so said I need to take CoQ10. I'm going to pop that in, and before you know it, you're on 40 things. So like we have the time and the ability to not only like understand, are these interventions working for you, and if not, like let's cut it out of your program. And then also we have the scope. So you're right, like we get a lot of people that are pre-diabetic, and we get to have that conversation because we have that level of connection, which is like, you can correct this by cleaning up your diet, getting in here in resistance training. And, we are willing to see what happens over the next 3 months. And then we're going to do this again. And if you have demonstrated that like those avenues are not effective because of lack of compliance or whatever, then yeah, like we have the opportunity to start with metformin or think about GLP-1s if necessary, or, hormone optimization. I think we've completely missed the boat on hormone optimization. You're starting to see it now with all these, groups where you can get Clomid and Clomiphene and TRT online, which I think is a little bit reckless because, again, the follow-up, why are you using it? Is it working? And what's your off ramp? Like what's the end goal here? But we have the ability to do that. And we have, we do it all the time. I think hormone health is incredibly important, not only for maintaining, muscle mass and good physical function, but we have a ton of data now that testosterone levels specifically are correlated directly with your mood state. So low T, high incidence of depression, military population, head injuries, chronically low testosterone, high incidence of depression and PTSD. So when we sit down with patients, when they come in and join the club, we go head to toe. We go, these are the things that are high priority that are going to impact your existence, heart disease, diabetes. These are the other things that you need to focus on, especially as you get older, hormone health, critical vitamins, and then everything else just in terms of maintenance, liver, kidney, all that stuff. And the goal, and we tell this to people, is like, no news is good news. Like checking in on a quarterly basis and being like, everything's good, that's great. But you shouldn't have to wait until the wheels fall off the cart or, a year or two to go back in and get your blood work done, because there's just so many things that could happen in between. And the human body is resilient, but it's resilient to a point. And unfortunately, when we start to see things fall apart, it's usually far too late to really make, meaningful improvement back to a high quality of life. And I do think that's the daunting thing. I tell patients, every single patient, my nurse practitioner, myself, when someone comes in, we go, these are decisions that you have to make or should make for the rest of your life. You are going to have to choose to get good sleep. You're going to have to choose to show up and move your body. Like that's a lot. That's a long time, hopefully. Let someone help you and design the program so that it takes the mental anguish away and you can just show up and know that you are going to be directed in a way that will help you for decades to come.
This episode of the Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by EGYM. EGYM makes some of the most innovative strength training machines on the market, but that's only one part of their integrated ecosystem. With connected fitness equipment, AI-powered gym software, and a comprehensive corporate wellness offering, it's forging the future of preventative health. Partnering with companies worldwide, EGYM's WellPass program improves employee health by expanding access to premier fitness and health facilities. Upgrading gym floors, EGYM equips every operator with smart equipment and AI tools to create hyper-personalized training plans for every exerciser. Putting it all together, they're transforming healthcare through exercise. Experience the power of EGYM's ecosystem at egym.com. The kind of value proposition and the model and the member experience, right? I think all those things line up, and frankly, it's something that I think most people wish that they had in terms of like this check-in and check-up and tune-up for their body on an ongoing basis, and somebody who's like on their side beyond, the 15-minute at best doctor's visit that they get and okay, cool, see you later. On the other side of that, it's like making that work from a business perspective, whether that's the coaches, the specialists, the doctors, the staffing, the locations, like how does that all play into it to say like we've arrived at a model that like we can make the numbers work out, and thus that enables us to open other locations to understand like how we're actually going to do this.
Yeah. So, I mean, without giving away our secret sauce, I'm fortunate that my business partners have been incredibly successful with traditionally low margin business, which is restaurants, right? And so they understand how to scale that concept and the dollars and cents behind it. We are fortunate that the way that we do our deals from a landlord lease standpoint, everything is very capital light, so we're not bearing ourselves from the jump. And we've priced ourselves in an affordable luxury space and made sure that from a cost standpoint, like our clubs are typically profitable within 5 to 6 months, which is like unique. But all things considered, it's four walls, it's equipment. We're not doing anything complex. Our largest expense is labor, and we want to hire good quality people. Like, I absolutely believe that the Steve Jobs thought that, like, when you start hiring B and C players, like, the entire company starts to go down. So we try to find the best of the best. And from a medical standpoint and a physical therapy standpoint, one of the things that I've been surprised with is there are a lot of healthcare professionals that are looking or have thought about doing something like this. And before you know it, they're just too deep in the system and you have debt and whatever. We are finding a lot of practitioners reaching out saying, like, hey, when are you coming to the Bay Area? When are you coming to New York? Like, I'd love to work with you, because they get their job satisfaction back. Like, they actually get to do the things that they intended to do. Their PTs get to work with patients for 60 minutes versus 15 before they have to go to an aide. So they're willing to pay, get paid a little bit less because it allows them to enjoy their life, and it's not a dread. And I couldn't have planned for that, but we basically said, like, these are our constraints and these are the numbers that we have to hit. Like, are you willing to do this? And, like, sure enough, people are like, yes, I would rather leave this extremely stressful, unpleasant work environment and come work with people that actually want to get better. I love and have great respect for my colleagues that have stayed in the healthcare system, because we need those people. I hope that as Monarch continues to grow and expand, like, we can take care of the day-to-day stuff that allow people to be healthy, and then hospitals can be what they need to be, which is places of specialization and advanced care versus just a catch-all for what it has become.
You talk about that pricing aspect, kind of premium luxury. There's this, like all the other things we've talked about, is on a spectrum from Planet Fitness budget gym, go in and hit the weights and do your thing, all the way up to now what we're starting to see is like this executive premium $100,000 a year soup to nuts, like club membership experience, doctor, all those things. And that being kind of like held up as something to strive towards. What does premium luxury mean? How do you think about the things across the spectrum, and then where Monarch fits in?
I mentioned off before we started recording the podcast, like, I have an aversion to, like, the cloak and dagger, like, marketing approach, which is like, we're ultra exclusive, inquire for more information. Like, that's great for some people. It doesn't resonate with me. Like, I'm going to be transparent with you. So, like, all of our pricing information is on our website. Like, anyone listening can go to monarchclubs.com. Like, you can see everything we offer and what we charge. Our most common membership we call Club Access. It's $1,500 per month, which, like, initial thought, people like alarmed us. But if you think about it, in LA, which is where our two clubs are now, and soon to be a third in March, Equinox is $300 to $400. Their executive level membership, which just gets you private locker room, is $500 per month. That's your fee to get in. You get nothing beyond that. Most people here now have a concierge physician because primary care is shifting to that model. That's $500 to $1,000 per month. And then you have all the other things. Do you go to physical therapy? Do you get a massage? Do you do group fitness on the side? Like, do you go to a pause or a restore or a remedy place for recovery? That's an extra $300 to $500 per month. So we basically said, like, what are people typically spending in part, and we'll charge the same, but our value is 10x. You can use a trainer every day. That's $150 an hour in LA. You can meet with a physician whenever you want. You're not paying extra for that. We have hyperbaric cold plunges, infrared sauna. I work with Therabody. So we have every Therabody recovery device you could possibly imagine. It's all at your leisure. Like, you have it there, no extra charge. So if you look at the value for the price point, most people, when they actually see everything that they get, they're like, oh, this is a no brainer. I'm saving money compared to what I'm spending. And to your point initially, you don't have to drive to three places. You don't have to schedule three different appointments. You can just like show up and it's all there. So how can you put a number on that? I'm not exactly sure, but I know for a fact that like it resonates with people because it makes their life easier.
When you talk about this kind of like sign up, apply within the kind of exclusionary aspect of it, how do you avoid getting lumped in with that when that is like there's a movement that's kind of again going in that direction and wanting to say, hey, we are exclusive. This is members only, and only certain people can come. But you're also talking about in the same breath, like, hey, we want to be accessible. We want more
Sure.
people coming in. Like price aside, I understand that like there's a cost associated with this, and people who have the means are going to pay it. But there's also kind of like that just idea, even Equinox to some extent, like, oh, this is not for me because X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, and again, like the soul of the founder is in the company. Like I want to help everyone. So, our approach is, yes, we want you to have an elevated experience because that's something that's in our DNA and my business partner's DNA. But our doors are open to everyone. And the limiting factor is if you can't afford what we offer, I totally understand that. Like we're not able at this point to do, pro bono like charity free memberships. But if you have the means and you are committed to achieving the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like, whatever your goals are, come one, come all, we'll take you. We're not vetting you like it's a social dating app. Our members are anywhere from 13 years old to 90 years old. We have everyone in between. Some people have never worked out a day in their life. Other people are Ironmen. Like the approach is the foundational aspects are the same. And the beautiful aspect in terms of like exclusivity is like our cap is our cap. We're full in West Hollywood. And that's just purely numbers based on space and what we felt like we could fit in. So we're not keeping anyone out for any reason other than like if we don't have any more memberships available, like that's our barrier, that's our limit.
Do you see as this continues to evolve, because there's obviously a push towards just value-based care and starting people like getting something for what they pay for their healthcare, and also people that are healthy and do invest in it getting some type of incentive, reimbursement, reward, and potentially healthcare moving in a direction where, look, you, especially with something like GLP-1s, you have to be exercising, you have to be on a nutrition program. You're not going to be able to continue to take these things, and certainly not from like an employer perspective who is subsidizing this to some extent. So is there an are you even at this point starting to think about the intersection of healthcare and a concept like Monarch, and how does that evolve?
I think for us, the future beyond brick and mortar expansion is the virtual aspect. So I mean, there's plenty of groups now, like Superpowers. We may like piggyback off the work that these groups are doing, but it's all data, right? So like insurance, that's the next big one that I've been thinking about for a long time. Is I do think there is a world where we can create a performance-based insurance company, and performance doesn't have anything to do with aesthetics. It's purely like we know the things that are going to increase or decrease your risk for the $5 trillion being spent on heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. So you as a, no different than car insurance, like you should be able to share the data that we can readily collect. There's 700 wearables, and you should be able to use that to prove that you either have earned or not an adjustment in your risk. Like I think that's possible. And we've been working on a model that we're going to beta test eventually where like as a Monarch member, you may be able to participate in like the world's first like value-based insurance, which is, do you hit the minimum movement metric? Do you maintain healthy body composition? Do you avoid heart disease and diabetes risk? And if so, like you pay this lower premium. And if you don't, you're paying more consistent, market rates. And then it's the pain point of like, how much does it hurt to like not go to the gym? It's, now it's a dollars question in your pocketbook. So I do think that intersection is coming. I think it has to. I think you're seeing large organizations starting to self-fund their insurance because their largest item on their P&L is not, their core business. It's healthcare benefits. Everyone knows that the system is broken. And I do think there are ways to incentivize people to participate more, which will bring down the cost. I don't think we're getting rid of insurance as it's structured. I think there's too many people that are making too much money, but I do think there's a way that everyone wins. Because again, like if you're paying $1,000 a month, which is on average like family for insurance premium, 1,200 actually, you know, they have the numbers in terms of how much money they're probably going to have to pay out. But like if you just incentivize and, whether it's with Monarch or whatever comes from this, if you can lower people's costs, but you're also lowering payouts, like everyone still wins. And I do think there's an opportunity there. For us, we've been collecting all this data for 5 years. We're sitting on mountains of data. I know how often our members are coming in. I know what their body composition looks like. I know what all their metabolic data looks like. But right now, I just have like, there's nothing that I can do with it. And it's so crazy to me that in healthcare, it's probably one of the only industries where the more you invest in yourself, you get nothing. You get higher costs. Like the safer you live, you get more. And interestingly, when I was at Mayo Clinic, like they had a subsidized gym. So the way that their membership was structured is based on the number of visits you logged the previous quarter, your rate adjusted for the following. Every single staff member would at least walk to the gym and scan their badge, because to them, the difference between $90 a month and $30 a month was significant enough for at least to get them to walk to the door. The problem was there wasn't anything beyond that. And so when I saw that, I'm like, man, if $60 motivates people to at least like walk to the door, what could you do if you can save people, $500 or $1,000 a month? I think they would actually, show up and sweat and participate.
Yeah, it'd be huge. I think everybody's kind of down that path and starting to connect those dots, and hopefully we see that happen sooner rather than later. A couple more questions before we wrap up. One being, we've kind of talked now, there's some clubs in the pipeline, certainly lots of different ideas that you're working on. What does the roadmap look like? What are the growth goals or metrics, or just how are you thinking about this continuing to expand?
Yeah, I mean, we opened, like I said, 2 months before the pandemic. So the first 3 to 4 years of our existence were just like wild for everyone. And then once we got Brentwood open and realized kind of like the value of what we had and understood what we were capable of with the success of that unit so quickly, for us, it's how do we continue to expand this network to increase our value so that our members, wherever they're stationed, they have a club to go to. Equinox is like 108 clubs. We could do 100 Monarchs. Like there's plenty of places that this will work or more. So for us, it's real estate, like getting 2 to 3 clubs open per year, trying to get on that clip if possible. And so right now, it's using our success, and we're in that, finally in that stage where some growth capital is going to be necessary to, could we self-fund? Yes. Would it take a lot longer? Absolutely. So, the greatest superpower anyone has is asking for help. So now we're like, all right, entertaining the idea of like, what is that number that allows us to really start on this pace? And then we can, use our momentum to carry us forward. And there's plenty of markets. So that's goal number one. Goal number two is just working on some of these ancillary opportunities that will allow people to not give up on themselves. It's very disheartening for me to see people making so much progress and then they inevitably run into a challenge, and the first thing they forget about is themselves, which is common. That's like the human condition. I get it, but I would love to see our ecosystem grow to the point that like leaving the Monarch community is not even a consideration. Not only because you miss out on the services, but maybe it's the insurance aspect or whatever that looks like. So creating those sticky touch points that keep people in, and also help other people too. So those are kind of like my high level day-to-day thoughts. We're treading new territory. No one's done what we've done. So every day is, new challenges. And yeah, I understand what some founders say when they feel like every day as a founder is like looking into an abyss and just like hoping that you make it out on the other side. I'm like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, there's something I've probably said it a bunch of times on the podcast, but I say it like a broken record is the reward for great work is more work. And it's like, that's what it is. And you just keep chipping away at it. For people who want to learn more, want to check out a club or just learn more about the mission, where should they go?
Yeah, so our website's monarchclubs.com. Instagram's Monarch Clubs the same. For me, it's at Dr._Greene with an E at the end _DO. And I'm happy to share my email if people have more pointed questions. Full disclosure, in 2025, I've adopted a digital detox strategy because I just found like my Instagram activity was just it's just like it's too much.
Too much.
So
Yeah.
if you want to get in touch with me, I'm happy to give you my email and you can share that in the show notes. And I'm very good at replying. So if you really feel like reaching out, that's probably the best way to do it. Otherwise, at some point, I'll check my DMs.
Perfect. We'll get everything linked up. Excited to share the conversation. Appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah, man. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you got value from the conversation, please consider subscribing and sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It's a massive help. And if you want more content like this, including news and insights on the latest industry developments, subscribe to the Fitt Insider newsletter at insider.fit.co. And one more thing, you can learn more about our recruiting and consulting services at fit.co. That's FITT.co. I'll see you here next week.